Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you tonight. We are excited to share a little bit more from our contributors for Bite of Boulder. I'm going to go ahead and let everyone introduce themselves. Erin, do you want to start?
Sure. I am Erin. My husband and I have owned Japango. He bought it about 12 years ago, and that's around when I started. Um, yeah, not much other than that. We just had a daughter. So we have a new little family right now, and we had her 1 month after the pandemic started. So that has kind of been a fun new adventure amidst all of this. But yeah, we've been in Boulder. Japango has been in Boulder for about 20 years at this point. So almost 21 years, actually. But yeah, we've been at the helm for about 12 years.
Awesome. Eric, we'll just go alphabetical.
I'm Eric. My wife and I own the Black Hat restaurant and Bramble and Hare, which just reopened just a handful of days ago. We still have new restaurant jitters happening, which is kind of weird for a restaurant that's been around for 7 or 8 years now. And the Black Hat, we've this is our 15th year now. Our first year of Black Cat out at the farm. That's where we set up our dining room in the gardens and on the side of the mesa where our farmhouse is. So kind of an interesting strange transition, but working really well.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Whitaker. Basta. Actually, I'll go ahead and shout out my wife since this seems like a couple's husband and wife team today. That's really cool. You don't always get that in the industry, but my wife and I moved to Boulder about 12 years ago now and started Basta. We have a small collection of restaurants in Boulder. Our newest in Boulder is Dry Storage Bakery and Mill. And then in Denver, if anyone's from Denver, we have the Wolf's Tailor and a downtown restaurant called Bruto, which is a tasting menu that's doing some interesting things with grains as well. We have a commercial mill that opened during the pandemic. So here in Boulder, out at Sterling Circle, so we mill and supply flour for chefs. I'm happy to be here today with these guys. I haven't seen Eric in a while, like a lot of industry, but it's good to see you, Chef. Congratulations on the baby, Erin. But Eric was one of the first to really take a chance on my restaurant. I'm in a funny location in Boulder, and first time I went to the farmer's market in Boulder, Eric was just curious so much to hear my story and figure out what I was trying to do, and has just been a hero of mine for the last 10 years. But we haven't seen each other enough. I'll say that right now. So good to be here with you.
And that is exactly what I love about the industry. And that is exactly why part of the ethos of writing this book came to fruition, is because obviously for chefs and even each other as owners, we provide that sense of belonging. We create that sense of community. And restaurants provide that to so many in our community, especially after a year of all of us being stuck at home in my bunker office, that you belong so many other places and you can see that friendly face and know about what's happening in their world. Part of what we've been through this year and what you've each all been through individually as restaurants is that you were put through the ringer. And this is not a therapy session. This is not a PTSD moment we need to bring up. But what I wanted to highlight for everybody is that in that challenge you were all given, in that trying to sort through what to do with your staff, your food, your restaurants, your livelihoods, you still showed up for the Boulder community. And each one of you in different ways, your businesses helped our community in the last year. Erin, I know Japango, actually all of you guys did the Freed the Front Lines. Erin, you guys did a sushi platter program for frontline workers, a gift card give back program. Eric, you guys took in, Calwood evacuees and served firefighters. Kelly, you guys did also some of those and also fed restaurant workers who had been displaced with their jobs. So I just want to applaud what you guys have done for that community, bringing those together. You're what make this community amazing. You're that fabric. And I'm just exactly so grateful to be part of this with you. I wanted to ask each of you, and I'll let you, whoever wants to go first. In the experience you've had this past year, what is something that you went through, your pivots that sparked a new concept for you? How did you stay connected to the community? What is something that you did that created that connection for you, maybe in a new way?
I'll jump in on that one just because you just mentioned kind of feed the front lines. And that was really a catalyst for us. When we were approached to do it, it was just kind of 6 restaurants, and they're like, do you want to provide 50 meals a day, every other day, to frontline workers? And at first we were like, this is amazing because it's bringing revenue in and we can employ more people and bring them back on. And then we started getting, after the first couple drop-offs, started getting phone calls from people that were like, this has been one of the hardest days. There are so many unknowns. All the doctors and house full of firefighters screaming, thank you. There are so many unknowns, and you guys dropping off meals, this is what we look forward to every day. And it kind of recharged why we do what we do. And we were in that mode of changing our entire business model and kind of just feeling really out of control and feeling like we didn't have control of a situation that we have been doing for so long. We felt like we were in a well-oiled machine, and suddenly it was this different thing. So really refocusing on the fact that food really does have the power to bring joy to people and to soothe the soul a little bit. And so that really changed kind of why we were doing what we were doing. And we realized that we didn't want to change what we were doing during COVID. We didn't want to become a transactional restaurant. We wanted to maintain that quality of food, hospitality, and restaurants still bring when the world feels so upended and scary. And that's something we've carried with us. I think food holds so many memories with it. I can go to my favorite restaurant that I used to go to when I was 12 in Denver and have the same pasta dish, and it's like a hug from your childhood. Or we used to live at the Peloton, so we would go to Basta all the time. And I can imagine going back there and being like, yeah, John and I back in our heyday, having fun. Restaurants just have this capacity to kind of be transportive. And so that's something that we've really carried forward in realizing this is why we do what we do. And we don't want to lose that no matter what happens, kind of with this whole situation. So
Absolutely. Food is love.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and echo what she said a little bit. I learned a lot about to-go food, but I'm not opening to-go food restaurants. So I love what you're saying, Erin. Like there was a lot that we did that sort of lost connection, but tried to keep that connection with our guests. And I would say for us, like one of the biggest things that came out of this for us was we didn't think that our downtown restaurant was going to reopen, Bruto. And so I transformed the space a little bit. I put some barriers, some walls around our wood fire oven. It had about 10 seats, and we decided to commit to advocacy work. And when I say commit to advocacy work, we didn't have a single plan. We didn't try to make a plan. I just saw that a lot of chefs had a lot to say online. And so we just I met a few of them for coffee. Taj Cook, who cooks like beautiful Jamaican food, and Modu was open in Rosetta Hall in Boulder, and was sort of not that project kind of changed what it was doing. And then met a chef Michael, who's our current chef de cuisine down there. We, through advocacy work, kind of met him, and he just wanted to have he was like speaking towards like border towns and food and what it was like to grow up in El Paso. And there was a lot of significant things that happened in El Paso with shootings and different things. And it was just, he just was like, I just want to cook and do this. And at the time he was making sandwiches at a grocery store. Him and like 2 or 3 of his friends moved here, and we're all working at different spots throughout the city. And he showed up, and I couldn't believe the way he organized, and I couldn't believe the way that, there was just, I was like, Chef, where have you been working? Where have you been cooking? And
Where have you been hiding?
Yeah, and it's just been a lot of listening. And he said, all of us were working at Pujol in Mexico City, and kind of just started telling me about his story. And again, I was just, whether it was Taj or Modu, I was just like really trying to hear what chefs are going through and what they're, and again, thinking I wasn't going to even bring this restaurant back. And now it's open and it's doing a really, they're just doing a phenomenal job cooking food and doing a tasting menu and stuff. And kind of a unique pivot that has stuck around. And, after he was popping up, I asked him if he wanted this job. And all the guys, they kind of got back together. And, these guys have been working together for years and now they work with us. Not for us, but with us. And it's just, it's been a real beautiful experience, something that we went through during the pandemic.
It is. It sounds really cool.
Well, early on, Jill and I started, I think like everybody, doing, to-go food and carry out stuff. And, we started doing a little grocery store in the middle of the dining room where we're delivering, stuff out to people. And I remember very early on hearing, hearing feedback from some of our customers who were deathly afraid of going out and, having their needs taken care of, whether that was, eggs from our farm or flour or, on the grocery side or, toilet paper or, or whatever it was. And that sort of resonated that there's a lot of people in our community that, that were isolated and they were going to be isolated. And there were lots of, there were a lot of needs out there that weren't going to be met. And that sort of created this paradigm or this filter for me, pretty much all the way through all the stuff that we've done, all the 75 pivots along the way have all been geared towards making sure that we can pull all those people that that rightly so have been scared to death from the pandemic, that we can pull all those people back into the community and make sure that they feel taken care of. That really was the impetus for us starting Mabel, the food truck. We had lots of our regular customers who were coming and getting takeout food and all the provisions, from the restaurant. That was fine. But there were half of our customers who didn't want to leave their houses. And, and I thought, geez, I've got this farm truck. Maybe we can just sort of make deliveries. We'll, amble through the, through the neighborhood or whatever, and we can end up taking care of those people. And, and then I look in my dining room, the Black Cat, I think scores all tens for, cute and cozy. And, cute and cozy is exactly the opposite of what all of us, my restaurant is the last place that I would want to eat during a pandemic. It's cute and cozy. It's not, broad and airy. Like, I'm a pretty good cook, but it's still like, I wouldn't have felt comfortable in my own dining room. But, I'm standing out, in the fields at the farm, and we have literally hundreds and hundreds of acres of space. And, and I thought, and we've done farm dinners out here before, and it was just a really easy step for us for me to think, I can just pick up the entirety of the dining room and I can move it out to the farm, and that's, figure out how I'm going to, pull that off. But 6-foot spacing is not a problem when you have several hundred acres. I mean, all of our tables are 25-foot spacing or 50-foot spacing. Like, we could do any kind of spacing. And I knew that we could create a dining experience for for everybody, where people would feel, really, really safe and taken care of. And, circling all the way back to it, really the reason that Jill and I started the farm, to begin with, was that, partially because I love driving tractors, but really, taking care of people with, and that's what I'm driven to do.
Mhm.
Taking care of people with mediocre ingredients is it feels two-dimensional. It doesn't feel, it doesn't feel fulfilling and enriching. Um, and it's really just you're just kind of taking care of people. So, taking care of people is like, that's the beginning, piece of what Jill and I have been doing over the last 15 years. And then to think that we couldn't do that because the dining room is closed, that was just, I couldn't make that, work inside my head. That seemed like something I was unwilling to let lie. I had to keep working until I could come up with a way of doing what I'm driven, to do. And frankly, everybody else on our team, these are people who live and breathe hospitality, really in the truest sense. Hospitality. It's really all about taking care of people, and our staff breathed that, and they were suffocating when the restaurant was closed. And being able to breathe life into the staff and let them, it's kind of like taking a fish out of water, and then you when you're fishing, and then you put the fish back in the water and you see it just take off again.
Yeah.
And our staff has been exactly like that. It's been really, really, really wonderful. Those are
magic out there for sure.
Yeah,
Is this
absolutely.
something you think you're going to keep through post-pandemic? Your greenhouse?
Oh yeah. If there's a silver lining in it, is that I love the commute from my house to 173 feet over to the barn. That's my new commute. And I love it. I had envisioned doing this when I was retiring. So I was thinking I would be here 10 or 15 years from now. But COVID has sort of, pushed us all along in ways we didn't necessarily want to. And then this is one way that turned out to be, really actually quite good. So I'm really excited to keep doing farm dinners. Yeah, we're all set to go all the way through. We're not stopping.
You touch on something about COVID being this catalyst for maybe this point for everybody, personally, for businesses that created opportunity or a moment that you could see as an opportunity to take a left-hand turn and do something different or adapt your process. I know a lot of restaurants reflected on changing their payment structure, their staff, how they ran their business. Erin and Kelly, did you too find different ways that you found that this catalyst moment helped propel you in the direction you hoped eventually to go?
I mean, there are certain things that, you discover along the way. I think probably one of our biggest lessons is that, and I think Eric could probably speak to this too, but like we really focus on short services with small teams to be very intentional. Like I have 4 projects and I probably have, 9 cooks across 4. It's just like one real restaurant, I always say. But like, there's a part of me like where when the Wolf's Taylor kind of took off and it was successful, I kept trying to tell my partners that that we could reduce the room, that we could provide an even better experience and those types of things. And so, but it's hard to prove out that model, you couldn't just say stop. And so when the world stopped, it was like, my partners that were telling me that every bar seat mattered and that it equated to this amount of money per night if you turn it over 2.5 times. And what we've been able to do is really show, and this goes for paying staff, like you mentioned, or, any of that. It really, to us, we've done more with less than ever before. And it turned out to be like, I think even around New Year's last year, we had a staff of about 24. We did about 150 covers at Wolf's, and it was like intense. And this year we beat that number with 4 front of house, 4 back of house, and a lot of thought and a lot of intention. And it wasn't just intention around like what we're trying to do in the restaurant, but it allowed me to have, really think about where I was buying product. If it was oyster farmers that couldn't sell oysters this year, I was like, they were a little larger of oysters because they were growing because there wasn't as much demand. This demand stopped. And it was real, eye-opening to think that we could meet the pace of how things want to grow naturally, organically, and that, the ethos of a restaurant or ecosystem of a restaurant could sort of
Evolve.
go along with how things move in the world.
Right.
Instead of just trying to really focus on covers and front door revenue, it was more like, just what became important, like everyone's kind of said today.
Mhm.
And I echo that. And we had this conversation the other day about, hearing that restaurants might go to, if all goes well, to no distancing on May 16th gave us a little jolt, I guess. And we were talking about where we never want to go back to kind of cramming every seat, getting every single seat filled. We have enjoyed working with the same amount of, our staff has actually grown, mostly because we now have a to-go department that never existed before this. We have to-go captains and a to-go manager, and to-go and delivery is something we swore we would never do, especially delivery. We were adamant that that would never change. And May 18th or March 18th, we were calling every delivery platform there was and changing the way we were doing things. And to-go, I think, will always be a part, well, for the immediate future, will be a part of what we do, because we just want to make sure we're meeting people where they're at and where they're comfortable. There's just not going to be people that are super comfortable going out to eat quite yet. And so keeping options open for everybody in terms of how they're finding their way through this whole process. There's no right way to deal with it. And the other part of that is we are running with the same number of staff, but patios are just, they're new. We went from having 20 seats on our patio to 70. And, we used to have this hype up meeting every spring with our staff being like, you are about to get your butts kicked. This extra patio space is just going to feel like a universe away from the restaurant. And now, these Pearl Street patios, I think, are so incredible because they just add to the dynamic energy of Pearl Street, and it makes it feel normal. Having people dining out and it just feels, the energy feels different.
Connected. Absolutely.
Yes. And so that's some of the stuff that it's not necessarily stuff that we've really learned along the way, but stuff that we've had to adapt. And I appreciate the fact that they are still going to be a part of our model for the foreseeable future. I hope Pearl Street patios are here for a while.
They were here till October.